Well, this weekend marks 50 years since one of the most infamous days in our nation's history. It's called Bloody Sunday. Protesters marching for voting rights were attacked by state and local law enforcement. Channel 3's Anthony Purr joins us live now from Selma, and he's been talking with the people who were there during that historic march.
Sue, you can see the Edmund Pettus Bridge behind me, that bridge iconic and synonymous with Bloody Sunday. Now, many of the people that took part in that original march in town this weekend, they're here to remember the sacrifices made, the victories won, and the work they say still needs to be done. These images taken nearly 50 years ago from the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. Its broadcast shocked the nation. Reverend H.K. Matthews was in the mix back then.
People across, not only across the country, but across the world, viewed that. And while we were in other places trying to talk about human rights right here in our own backyard were being violated.
The march paved the way for the Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed by then-President Lyndon B. Johnson nearly 5 months after the march. Selma today, the bridge still standing, and the town welcoming national leaders to remember the sacrifice. Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Some using the venue to publicize what they say still needs to be corrected in society. Signs and chants from Ferguson dominated this park for part of Friday. But former Selma Mayor James Perkins says this day is personal. As the first African-American mayor elected in the town, he remembers not just the march, but everyone that helped break down barriers in the civil rights movement.
Those people didn't know my name, but they gave their lives so that I could serve as African-American mayor of this city. They gave their lives so that a Cory Booker could serve in the U.S. Senate and a Barack Obama could serve as President of the United States.
Now tomorrow the president is in town. He's expected to speak around 1:30. There's also a Jubilee parade, and on Sunday, that anniversary march. For now, reporting live in Selma, Alabama, Anthony Purr, Channel 3 News.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena DeFlores. Bob Solarski has the night off. Well, President Obama and other national figures will arrive in Selma, Alabama tomorrow to commemorate Bloody Sunday. On March the 7th, 1965, state and local law enforcement officers attacked a group of protesters marching for voting rights. Channel 3's Anthony Purr has more from Selma.
You can see the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It's iconic and synonymous with Bloody Sunday. It's going to be the background for the president's remarks. Thousands expected to see the first family. Many say they're proof of progress. The stage is set. Crews working late, fine-tuning this area at the foot of the bridge. The president expected to make his remarks here.
It's almost indescribable because for a lot of us never dreamed that we would see an African-American president in our lifetime.
Former Selma Mayor James Perkins says it was possible because of the power of the vote. For many, this march 50 years ago paved the way for that right.
I'm hoping they take away a commitment to participate in the voting process. I don't care if you're voting for president or dog catcher.
On Friday, hundreds of children walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in honor of the historic march, while other groups used the stage to bring up Ferguson and the work they say remains across the country. Reverend H.K. Matthews took part in that Bloody Sunday march. Looking at the weekend's events reminds him of a day hard to remember, but he says is dangerous to forget.
It's a good feeling. It's a relieved feeling. I don't know, I feel good about what we did, and I feel good about the fact that we are just redoing it to demonstrate to the world that we have not forgotten what took place 50 years ago.
The anniversary march is scheduled for Sunday. Reporting from Selma, Alabama, Anthony Purr, Channel 3 News.
And we thank you for joining us for Channel 3 News at 6 o'clock. I'm Jim Carmack. Happening now, President Obama is wrapping up his visit to Selma, Alabama. The president was there for the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, the Selma march that played a pivotal role in the civil rights movement. Anthony Purr is there live with the message the president had for the crowd of thousands. Anthony?
Jim, that's the Edmund Pettus Bridge behind me. Many of these people sticking around after the president's speech, walking across the bridge now. Did want to show you this from the Selma Times-Journal, the headline, "Welcome, Mr. President." Obviously the biggest event in Selma today, the president speaking for nearly an hour under the backdrop of that bridge, which has become a standing symbol for Bloody Sunday. Captured on video 50 years ago, Alabama state troopers and local law enforcement on horseback unleashed their clubs and tear gas on nearly 600 peaceful marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. The marchers wanting voting rights for all Americans in a racially polarized era in U.S. history. 17 ended up at the hospital. A stark contrast to Saturday. At the foot of the bridge, President Barack Obama, the first African-American U.S. Commander-in-Chief, welcomed with cheers by a crowd of thousands. The president paid homage to the victims of the brutal attack half a century ago.
The Americans who crossed this bridge, they were not physically imposing, but they gave courage to millions. They held no elected office, but they led a nation.
The march gave way to the Voting Rights Act signed by then-President Lyndon B. Johnson. The president telling a crowd of thousands, voting rights are under attack again. In recent years, the Supreme Court struck down key components of the Voting Rights Act, opening the doors for more stringent voter requirements.
Right now, in 2015, 50 years after Selma, there are laws across this country designed to make it harder for people to vote. As we speak, more such laws are being proposed.
Nicole Dixon and Sunshine Mora made the trip from Pensacola to hear the president reflect on Bloody Sunday. They say the president put into words what they've long felt.
We've accomplished a lot. However, we do have a long way to go. And I'm so ecstatic on the inside that I know we can do this.
Now the president also taking a few steps on the Edmund Pettus Bridge himself. He and the first family also paying a visit to the National Voting Rights Museum here in town. The big anniversary march scheduled for 2:30 tomorrow. For now, we're reporting live in Selma, Alabama. Anthony Pura, Channel 3 News.
We thank you for joining us tonight for Channel 3 News. I'm Jim Carmack. About 80,000 people walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma today. The march across the historic landmark is in remembrance of Bloody Sunday. This weekend marks 50 years since that brutal event in civil rights history. Several people from Northwest Florida were there today for the event, including Channel 3's Anthony Pura.
A multitude of faces, countless feet making steps forward, marching and displaying the progress the nation has made in the past half century. These brutal images from 1965, clubs and tear gas from state troopers on horseback, meeting the flesh and bone of peaceful marchers trying to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It's about 1,250 feet across this bridge, and right now crowds exercising their right to walk it. But many say it's a symbol for other issues across the country, other bridges the nation still needs to cross. Ellison Bennett is an activist from Pensacola, focused on bridging the gap in the community.
You have children entering the 9th grade that are not graduating from high school. In Escambia County, you have 1,200 children who are living homeless out of hotels. There are so many issues.
She said brother! She said brother!
Grace McCaffrey, also from Pensacola, marching with a Latino group showing unity across all colors.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
Also present, chants spawned from events in Ferguson, the group small, but displaying their presence all weekend. The original march from Selma to Montgomery was finished by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. 2 weeks after Bloody Sunday. The events led to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Mike Lowry from Pensacola brought his daughter so she can appreciate the importance of this day.
I could just feel, the appreciation of having the ability to vote and to support the people that deserved the vote in 1965. So I wanted my daughter to experience this.
Tomorrow, a group is organizing to walk from Selma to Montgomery. That trip, about 50 miles. The group expected to walk about 12 miles each day. Reporting in Selma, Anthony Pura, Channel 3 News.